Welcome back to the KanCare Ombudsman Liaison Training. In this module, we'll be covering the application pages 1 through 3. Things that we'll be covering specifically are who uses this application, which programs which program do I apply for, who is the person 1 and number 2 on the application, how do I fill that part out, what contact information is the most important, and a little bit about division of assets. What form do I ask for if I want a division of assets? And there's also a fact sheet that explains a little bit about division of assets in this module. Next in this video is a guide, a line-by-line guide to completing a KanCare application. Make sure you're using the most recent application. For the elderly and persons with disabilities application, there's a number on the top right-hand corner of page 1. It should say KC 1500 11/18, November 2018. A few themes to address before one begins this process. Certain things you claim on the application must be backed up with additional documentation. If someone is in your household, they must be on the application, and then fill out everything and don't leave anything blank. Additional documentation. In order to process your application fully, KDHE will also need proof of certain things that you claimed on the application. You must be willing and able to provide this additional documentation. By sending all of the required proof up front, your application can be processed more quickly. Even if you follow this documentation checklist and send in absolutely everything that you've claimed on the application, there's still the possibility that KDHE will need more information and they may send out a letter to request that. So always keep your eye on the mailbox when you're in the application process, and anytime that you have KanCare, because all notices come through the mail. If they do not receive the documentation they have requested from you, they cannot process your application fully. So this is things such as proof of income, proof of resources or assets, proof of health insurance, proof of a pending disability. If you have a disability pending with the Social Security Administration, proof of expenses that may lessen your client obligation or spend down, proof of medical expenses, and proof of representative. If you have a DPOA or conservator or guardian, medical representative, make sure that information gets submitted to the clearinghouse along with your application. Report everyone in the household. If someone is in your household, they must be on the application, even if they're not applying for insurance. If they're not applying for insurance, the information you give on them may be very basic. Don't leave anything blank. Fill out everything. If something does not apply to the applicant, do not leave it blank. Put NA or non-applicable clearly so that the eligibility team knows this does not have to be investigated further. Page 1, Application for Elderly and Persons with Disabilities. Page 1 gives you information on who can use this application, how to apply, what type of services does KanCare cover, and what programs can I apply for with this form. Who can use this application? This application is for individuals who are elderly, 65 and older, persons with disabilities, child or adult, persons determined blind or disabled by Social Security rules, that's the SSDI determination, Social Security Disability Insurance, or the SSI determination, Supplemental Security Income, or those individuals trying to get there, meaning they have a pending disability case with Social Security. Either they've recently applied and so have a pending case, or they have been denied a disability determination by Social Security, but they're actively appealing that disability case denial. If you have a pending case, make sure that you submit proof of that with your KanCare application so that KDHE eligibility team can see that. That proof can be anything from your mail from the Social Security office that shows you have a pending disability case with Social Security. Also a reminder, persons applying for nursing facility, home and community-based HCBS waiver programs, and PACE program would also use this application. How to apply? To apply for medical coverage, use any of the following choices. You can call the clearinghouse and request an application be mailed to you, 1-800-792-4884. Applications can be downloaded from the KanCare or the KDHE websites. And also you can apply online through the KanCare website or the KDHE website. If you are able to attach additional documents to the online version of the application, such as your proof of income, proof of resources, proof of health insurance, etc. They do need to be in Adobe PDF format when you attach those. And also you can only submit documentation that way online when you first send in your application. If you submit your application online first and then go back and try to add PDFs and send them to the clearinghouse that way, currently that won't work with the way it's set up. You only have that first time when you submit the application to attach those PDFs. Also, if you have a very, very large PDF file, it may not go through. So just be aware of that. And I would always reach out to the clearinghouse to make sure they receive not only your application online, but any PDFs that you attached as well. If they did not receive some of the PDFs, if they didn't make it along with your online application, or you just simply didn't attach those, you still need to send in that required documentation separately. You can fax it to the clearinghouse. So you could do an online application and then fax in the additional required documentation, and that would be just fine. Again, contact the clearinghouse and make sure they got both of those. Make sure they got everything. Follow up with the clearinghouse. Be proactive. Make sure they've got your application and your documentation, but always be on the lookout. Watch that mailbox like a hawk, and just know that KanCare may be requesting more or updated information. And then always read those letters right away and respond in a timely manner, because those letters asking for required documentation do have deadlines. Plus, any moment you wait, that's adding to the delay. What type of services does KanCare cover? It may help pay for medical, hospital bills, doctor's visits, medicine, Medicare premiums, in-home assistance services, nursing home care, institutional care. It all depends on what program or programs you're eligible for, and also based on your individual needs. Which medical assistance programs can you apply for using this application? We went over each of these different programs earlier in other videos in the series. Just to mention, each one of the programs, there's the medically needy program, which is the one that has the spend down, which is like a deductible. Then there's the working healthy program, the 7 home and community-based service waivers, so the 7 HCBS waivers. There's the nursing home or other long-term care institutional type facility, or the program of all-inclusive care for the elderly, which is referred to as PACE, or the Medicare Savings Program. Or there's also the possibility, if you have a pending disability case with Social Security, you may end up with Medicaid or presumptive Medicaid, depending on your eligibility. What types of assistance does this person need? You're going to want to check all that apply. You want to check the Medicaid program that you're hoping for, either medically needy, working healthy, one of the HCBS programs, nursing facility, or PACE. And then if the person has Medicare also, you can check not only whichever program is appropriate, but also the Medicare cost box too. That way, if they're eligible for a level of the Medicare Savings Program, the state will help them pay for their Medicare out-of-pocket costs as well. We do have a frequently asked question I want to address here. If I am on the wait list for one of the HCBS waivers, should I wait, or should I go ahead and check the HCBS box and give them my application now? People are afraid if they check that HCBS box now and there's no open spots on the HCBS program that they want, that their application will just sit there unprocessed at the clearinghouse. But the answer from KDHE eligibility team is that they recommend anyone interested in any of the HCBS programs apply for KanCare right away, checking that HCBS box, waiting list or not. If you check the HCBS box before your position on the wait list is ready, your application could still be worked for any other programs that the eligibility team could give you in the meantime. So maybe there's a wait list for your waiver, but maybe they can give you the medically needy program coverage and the Medicare Savings Program in the meantime. So still go ahead and fill that application out, get it sent in. It's okay and even recommended to go ahead and check that HCBS box if that's the program you're looking for, wait list or not. Medicare costs versus Medicare costs only boxes. Checking the Medicare costs box alerts eligibility specialists to check for their ability to enroll in a Medicare savings plan, where the state will help the member pay for their Medicare premiums, copayments, and deductibles. Checking the Medicare only box asks that the Medicaid coverage not be considered and only the Medicare savings program be considered. So if you want a Medicaid plan and help with your Medicare costs, you're going to want to check the appropriate Medicaid plan that you want or the appropriate KanCare plan, and also check the Medicare costs box. But if you only want help with your Medicare costs and nothing else, then you can check the Medicare costs only box. But if you're going to do that, there is a much shorter application called the Medicare Savings Program that's only about 3 pages, I believe, to fill out, which is much smaller than the regular KanCare application. So if you only want help with your Medicare premiums, I would look into the Medicare Savings Program application. We're now starting page 2 of the KanCare application for the elderly and persons with disabilities. Page 2 of the application starts off with a reminder for you to answer honestly, a reminder to sign and date the last page of the application, and a reminder to send in the documentation proving what you've claimed on the application. If you cannot send in that documentation with your KanCare application, make sure to send it in as soon as possible following your submitted application, and then always call KanCare to make sure they've actually received both your application and your required documentation. The KDHE eligibility team will be unable to process your application fully if they do not have all your required documentation. And sometimes they need updated documentation. So always watch your mailbox for requests for more documentation and get that into them as soon as possible. Page 2, Section A. If there are services needed for a specific reason, tell them about that in this section. It could be as simple as writing in, I need help paying for nursing home expenses. If you need a division of assets, there is no form before the KanCare application that you'd complete. You could mention that here, that you need a division of assets. Once your KanCare application is submitted, if there is a division of assets needed, a form will come to you after that application has been submitted. Also, if you have an urgent medical need and you're requesting that your application be expedited, you can write that here. You may also want to attach a letter explaining the details to the front of the application of your urgent medical need and why you're requesting that to be expedited. If you have an individual if you're helping an individual fill out the application that is an immigrant, refugee, or asylee, and they fit into that potentially Medicaid eligible non-citizen status, you can note that here and specify that you have submitted the proper immigration status documentation along with the application so that they know that's there. I just mentioned the division of assets, so let me explain about that just a little bit. There is a fact sheet on it. The spousal division of assets is the spousal impoverishment provision of the Medicaid program, and it changes the Medicaid eligibility requirements when one spouse needs long-term care coverage from one of the programs such as nursing home, HCBS, or PACE, and the other spouse does not need that coverage. It protects a portion of the couple's income and resources so that the spouse at home is not reduced to poverty in order for the other spouse to get the care they need. At the same time, these provisions help the spouse needing the long-term medical care to qualify for Medicaid benefits, which can help in paying for that care. Where can I find the Division of Assets form to turn in with my application? As already mentioned, there is no Division of Assets form available to submit before you apply. However, once you've applied, the clearinghouse will provide you with the appropriate forms to be completed. An applicant may request a Division of Assets on page 2 of the application, or you could also call the KanCare Clearinghouse at 1-800-792-4884. The primary applicant contact information in section B of page 2. What's important to know? A correct phone number and correct address are very important, and always keeping that updated with the KanCare Clearinghouse is also very important. Email and text are not important because at this time KDHE does not use these forms of communication. What if the applicant has a P.O. box? An applicant can use a P.O. box as a mailing address. They have to also tell the eligibility team where they live physically in Kansas. This could be homeless. It's also important to know when assisting a nursing facility resident that the home address entered should be the address of the facility where the individual resides. So for people in nursing homes, they must have their residential and their mailing address as the nursing home. If they want their mail to go elsewhere, they have to have a medical representative. So it's really important that a person residing in a nursing home does have a medical representative, some family member or someone that's looking out for their best interests, making sure they're reading the same mail that person would be getting in the nursing home, and helps to keep their KanCare services going. Page 3 of the application. Tell us about yourself and the people in your home. The individual needing medical assistance should be entered as person 1 if they are an adult 18 years or older. Then their spouse would be entered as person 2, and the spouse's information must also be entered even if they do not need medical assistance. And anyone living in the household would be entered as person 3 beyond that, even if they do not need medical assistance. What if the individual needing assistance is under 18 years of age? If an adult is filling out the application for someone younger than 18, then the adult is person 1, even if they don't need medical assistance, and the child needing medical assistance would be person 2. Also, you will need to attach another sheet of paper if more than 3 people reside in the home. Family members, friends, and neighbors helping someone to complete the application. They will not include their information in this section unless they are a member of the household. Mistakes often made on page 3, section C of the application. Many who assist in nursing home residents may think they should enter information about themselves here, but that is incorrect. Also, adult children holding durable power of attorney, DPOA, often enter their information here, and this is incorrect unless they are also living in the household of the individual applying for medical assistance. Non-household individuals helping someone with the application. If the person assisting them is not living with the applicant, they will complete the information on page 14 of the application instead. And then if you do claim that you are a guardian, a conservator, you hold DPOA, or you're a payee, You're also going to want to be sure to submit proof with the application that you are who you say you are. Back to page 3 of the application, lines 1 through 14. If you're going to report everyone in the household. If they are not applying for medical coverage, you still need to include them if they're living in your household. If they are not applying for insurance, again, the information you give on them would be very basic. Here's an example of how to list each member of your household. For example, Ricky is person number 1. So person 1 is himself. Person 2 is his wife. Person 3 is his son. If you look at Lucy, person 2 is herself, where person 1 is her husband and person 3 is her son, etc. Who needs medical assistance and which type? Once each member of your household has been listed, make sure you've distinguished whether or not they are to be included in the request for medical coverage by checking the yes or no boxes. And then if you've checked yes, this person is applying for medical assistance, be sure to indicate what types of assistance this person needs and check all that apply. So for example, this person would like nursing home coverage, but they also have Medicare, so they'd like help with the state paying their Medicare premiums, co-payments, and deductibles for them. It's important to check the right types of assistance to speed up the application processing time. You wouldn't want to check, for example, both the HCBS box and the nursing home box because those are two very different programs. The KDHE needs to know which program is the person actually applying for. So, for example, if someone, and the family may not understand, the family may know that their mother lives in a nursing home, is residing in a nursing home, but they have 2 wings in that nursing home. One is a skilled nursing, long-term care nursing home type of coverage, and the other is assisted living. So that would be HCBS coverage. So make sure you understand which program you're actually asking for and to check the right box. What if you're not sure which program to apply for? If you're not sure, refer back to page 1 of the application. It has definitions of the different types of assistance available. On bottom of page 3 of the application talks about guardian and conservator. If you are the guardian, legal guardian or conservator for the applicant, if your answer is yes to that, then there will be some additional questions you'll need to complete on page 14, and also it should be your signature on the application on page 15, which is that final page for waiting for that final signature. You'd want to make sure the legal guardian or conservator signs that application and also prints out a copy of their the paperwork that proves they're the guardian or conservator and submit a copy of that along with the application. Again, if you are the guardian or conservator or the Social Security payee, the person that holds durable power attorney, etc., please complete this section on page 14 and remember to submit proof that you are who you claim to be on the application along with the KanCare application. If you'd like to continue with this line-by-line guide of the KanCare application for the elderly and persons with disabilities, please check out the next few liaison training videos. Again, there is also a printable line-by-line application guide available in this section. If you're a KanCare applicant or member and you're needing help to resolve a KanCare issue, we are here to assist you. Also, if you're a provider assisting someone or a family member or a neighbor and you're trying to help a KanCare applicant or member, we are here to help you also. Give us a call. Our toll-free number is 1-855-643-8180. Again, that's 1-855-643-8180, or email us at kancare.ombudsman@ks.gov.